Welcome to this deep dive. Today we're doing something a little different. Our sources are really focused. We're looking at a singular short narrative. It's about an honest little bird named Lily.
Hmm.
And on the surface, it reads like a simple fable, but we've picked it because it really functions as this pristine sort of control case in behavioral ethics.
Exactly. It's deceptively simple.
It is, but it has this foundational architecture of moral decision-making, and it's all distilled into its purest form.
And that's really our mission today. We're going to treat this story not just as, say, children's literature, but as a framework.
Right.
We want to unpack its structure to pull out some pretty profound insights about temptation, how we form internal guidance, and the surprising psychological rewards of integrity.
So for you, the listener, this is almost a shortcut to understanding the mechanics of a moral choice.
It is.
Okay, so the narrative sets the stage immediately. It defines the central conflict right from the start. We're told Lily lives in a beautiful forest.
Which implies this natural, sort of uncorrupted environment.
Exactly. But then the text immediately adds this key psychological trait. It says she is very curious and loved shiny things.
And that's not just background detail. That is the immediate setup for her vulnerability.
It totally sets the stage for a conflict between her own intrinsic nature, this love of acquisition, and what will become her learned ethical values.
What's so fascinating to me is just how efficiently the source establishes this high-stakes internal conflict, even in such a simple setting.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about real-world ethical dilemmas, they often have all these complex external pressures. But here, the temptation is isolated.
It's just her and the object.
Right. It's a look at the foundational architecture of decision-making. The immediate lure versus the guiding force of a pre-established value system.
And that conflict, it just materializes instantly. She's near the river and finds the absolute perfect object to test her ethics, a small material treasure.
Let's unpack that moment. Lily finds a small gold ring near the river. Notice, it's not a massive diamond or a huge pile of money.
It's manageable.
It's manageable, it's easily concealed, but it's still highly desirable because it's gold. And the nature of that object is so crucial because it affects the risk calculation.
How so? I mean, isn't any found object just as tempting?
Well, if the objects were, say, a huge antique clock, the choice wouldn't be purely ethical, would it? It would involve logistics, and you'd be almost certain someone would notice it was gone.
Okay, right. You can't just fly away with a grandfather clock.
Exactly. But because the ring is small and gold, it minimizes the perceived risk of being caught. That's an easy secret to keep.
Ah, so that specific detail enhances the internal conflict. The chance of any external consequence feels extremely low.
It isolates the pure ethical choice. The decision is made in a vacuum without the pressure of imminent detection.
That's a great point. The fact she can so easily hide it makes the choice purely about her character. It's not about being afraid of getting in trouble. It's about what she does when literally no one is watching. Okay, so let's analyze that first immediate lure. The source tells us exactly what Lily's initial, unvarnished thought was.
I can keep this ring for myself.
Yes, that is the unfiltered voice of immediate gratification. It happens before any higher moral reasoning even enters the frame.
That's a perfect representation of the first fork in the road. It's pure desire, driven by her nature. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of decision-making, this is that moment where external accountability is just non-existent.
It's a moment of pure internal choice.
It defines immediate character.
So we have this pure desire, and we've established the external risk is basically zero. This raises a really important question. If the risk of getting caught is so low, why doesn't she just immediately fly away with it? What's the true cost of keeping the ring at this specific stage?
The only cost is a psychological one. It's the acceptance of a small lie of omission against her own self-concept, the material gain versus the internal loss.
And that's the transition point.
Yes, from immediate impulse to that internalized framework, the source makes it so clear that the choice is primarily internal, which, that leads us right to the critical intervention.
And here's the mechanism that overrides that instant gratification. Lily stops herself. But not because she hears footsteps or sees a shadow.
No.
It's because she remembers a direct, internalized precept. It's like a moral anchor that's been planted deep inside her.
And that anchor is traced right back to her source of guidance. The specific quote from her mother that acts as the internal checkpoint is, "Always be honest, even when no one is watching."
I think we really need to spend some time on that last part, even when no one is watching. That phrase is doing all of the heavy lifting in this story.
It truly is. Because if the mother had only said, always be honest, well, the temptation could be solved by just making sure she wasn't observed.
Right, it would be purely extrinsic, driven by the fear of punishment or social judgment.
But by adding even when no one is watching, the mother's guidance just elevates the entire decision-making process.
It moves the decision from just simple compliance, avoiding a bad outcome, to upholding an internalized value system, which behavioral scientists call autonomous motivation.
Precisely. Autonomous motivation means the decision is coming from a place of personal value alignment. Integrity itself becomes the goal, rather than just compliance being the means to avoid trouble.
Hmm.
And this is so critical for you, the learner, in understanding how mature moral values are actually applied in real time. The mother's guidance acts as this powerful override. It stops the immediate impulse because it links the action to a core identity principle. I am an honest bird.
But doesn't this run the risk of just being, conditioning? Is Lily truly making an autonomous choice, or is she just following a rule she was programmed with?
That's an excellent challenge, because you're right. Initially, all moral frameworks do start as external conditioning.
Okay.
However, the move toward autonomy happens when the individual recognizes the value of the rule beyond just the teacher. Lily has to actively recall the rule, apply it to a situation of high personal gain, and then choose to implement it.
So the act of choosing it against her own desire.
Exactly. That active recall and implementation against a strong impulse, that desire for the shiny ring that demonstrates the rule, has been fully internalized. It's moved from what mother said to who I am.
So she has the framework, the who I am principle, locked in place. But then the situation immediately shifts again. The decision is no longer abstract.
Right.
It moves from being this little ethical thought experiment to a tangible, empathetic opportunity. The context for the action arrives right on cue.
And that's the beautiful efficiency of this narrative. Lily looks around and sees a little girl crying near the river. The physical presence of distress immediately grounds that abstract rule in a human reality.
The girl provides the context that makes the conflict actionable. She says, simply, my ring is lost. And the text says she said it sadly. So this isn't just about finding a piece of gold anymore.
No, now the possession of the ring is framed as the direct source of pain for another person, and Lily is described as having felt sorry for her.
That feeling of sorrow is the catalyst, then.
It's the catalytic agent.
Mm-hmm.
It moves Lily beyond just following a rule because she was told to acting ethically, because she understands the tangible negative consequence of her potential dishonesty on someone else. Empathy bridges the gap.
The gap between the internal moral framework and the necessary external action.
She doesn't just apply the rule, she applies it with compassion.
It transforms the ethical action from being just about her own personal integrity into an act of, collective good. It's no longer about keeping a secret shiny object. It's about restoring happiness to someone in distress.
And just look at the speed of the resolution. Once that internal conflict is resolved by the mother's precept and the external action is catalyzed by empathy, the action itself is just swift and clean.
Lily flew down and dropped the ring near the girl. No hesitation, no negotiation.
None.
And the narrative emphasizes the immediate, powerful emotional return on that investment. The girl's reaction is extreme and immediate. My ring, she shouted happily. That swift, joyful resolution, it confirms the tangible value of the honest action, not just to Lily, but to the recipient too.
It's the visual confirmation that the action had a profound positive impact. The narrative doesn't drag it out. It confirms the immediate positive outcome of integrity.
So the transaction is complete. The girl says, thank you, little bird. But the real deep dive insight, the true core of this story, is the internal payoff for Lily.
Yes.
Let's detail that, because this is where the story gives us its deepest psychological insight. How did Lily feel afterward? The source is absolutely explicit about this. It contrasts this outcome with her initial impulse to just keep the gold.
Lily felt very proud and happy.
Very proud and happy. That's the crucial comparison. The material value of the ring is put up against the emotional and social value of the honest action. If she'd kept the ring, she might have felt a temporary surge of, pleasure.
A fleeting joy of acquisition, a hedonic pleasure. Instead, she chose an action that resulted in feeling very proud.
Why is pride a superior reward mechanism here? I mean, couldn't she just have been happy with the gold?
Well, happiness from acquiring the gold is often temporary. It's subject to what we call the hedonic treadmill. You quickly adapt to having the object, and then you need the next shiny thing to feel that same rush.
Right.
Pride, however, is a deeper, self-affirming emotion. It's not just a feeling, it's a statement of self-worth based on internal consistency. Pride affirms that I successfully acted in accordance with who I believe myself to be. It's a self-reinforcing loop.
So it builds long-term identity and sustains future ethical behavior.
Precisely.
So she essentially gave up a temporary object for a sustained psychological affirmation of her character. She chose an internal state pride and happiness over a material object.
The narrative proves that the fulfillment you get from ethical behavior vastly outweighs the pleasure of selfish acquisition, and the overall moral is then stated so clearly in the source, offering a twofold benefit.
Always be honest. Honesty makes you happy and respected.
Happiness and pride are the immediate internal benefits, felt by Lily instantly. But respect, respect is the long-term social currency earned.
This is the crucial takeaway for anyone trying to prioritize values. The honest choice resulted in feeling very proud, which fundamentally changes the perceived value of the whole exchange. She gained self-respect, sustainable happiness, and external gratitude, all for the price of a small gold ring.
And we can connect this to larger models of ethical behavior. The source guarantees that honesty brings both happiness and respect. We saw the happiness part confirmed immediately.
Yeah, in Lily's pride.
But respect is rarely immediate. It's something earned over time, often through small, consistent, cumulative actions.
Which brings us back perfectly to that linchpin phrase that guided her in the first place.
Even when no one is watching.
Right. That phrase suggests that real integrity is built in private.
Yes. This deep dive showed us how a powerful moral lesson can be built on just a few sentences. You have the setup of temptation, the intervention of a strong, internalized precept,
The critical act of empathy that applies the rule to the outside world.
and the guaranteed, immediate internal reward of pride and happiness. It's an incredibly efficient distillation of the architecture of integrity.
It really serves as a powerful reminder of how simple, clear moral guidance can successfully shift behavior from immediate self-interest to, well, to altruism, all driven by a robust ethical framework.
And if we consider the full implication here, the moral promises social respect as a long-term reward, yet the entire narrative focuses on an action that was essentially private.
That's true. No one was watching when the choice was actually made. Only the recipient saw the delivery.
So that leads to a final provocative thought for you. The story emphasizes honesty when no one is watching. If you are constantly making ethical choices in private, returning a dropped item when no one would know, upholding a promise that benefits no one but yourself, how does that accumulate into the respect, the moral promises?
Even if those actions are never publicly known.
Right. What is the function of respect when the actions themselves are invisible to the public eye? Does true respect flow inward from self-affirmation? Or is it always dependent on an external witness? Something to mull over as you continue your learning journey.